Hey y'all, we have launched our very own merch on the Letters 2 Media merch store. We have a bunch of good looking t shirts and hoodies. If you want your own Haddonfield Horror merch, click on the link in the description.
No, it wasn't like that. I mean, this was really real. I mean, there was this man, but he was more like a monster, really. And they kept calling him Freddy, and he was so real.
What did he look like?
He had this dark brown hat, and his skin was terribly burned, and then on his right hand, he had like these razor fingers.
He must be tripping.
No, and there were these little girls, and
okay,
they
it
were
was a bad
singing.
dream.
They were singing like this song, like.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. You know why they sing that? Because that's when he comes for you. In your dreams. You're lucky to be alive.
Who is he?
He's a child murderer that some parents from around here burned alive. Then he came back. Back for revenge in our nightmares.
Welcome back to the Haddonfield Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark,
I'm Maria.
and today we're watching Freddy Vs. Jason, released in 2003, directed by Ronnie Yu, written by Damian Shannon and Mark Swift. Maria, can you give the people the plot summary?
Two horror icons face off in a supernatural movie. Disfigured serial killer Freddy Krueger, who attacks his victims in their dreams, has lost much of his power since citizens of his town have become less afraid of him. Enlisting the help of fellow violent murderer Jason Voorhees, Freddy orchestrates a new killing spree. However, when the hockey mask-wearing psychopath won't stop chopping up Freddy's intended victims, the two ghouls battle each other.
So, Freddy vs. Jason. Well, Maria, this is your first time. Is this your first time seeing Freddy vs. Jason?
I mean, the last time I saw this movie, I was like probably 10. I was really young. I remember the last scene. I definitely remember that because I remember thinking like, what is going on right now? But I have seen this movie.
With the little wink?
Yeah.
Oh my god. But, like, for me, besides the remakes, this is the first like movie that I remember on the promotions for. Like I remember when the trailer dropped. I remember when they went on talk shows. I remember watching that stupid WWE matchup they had like live. Like I remember watching the trailer and being like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna watch. They're gonna be on Raw. They're gonna be on SmackDown. I have to watch this."
Yeah,
Like
that
for
I
the
do remember.
yeah, and it's just like I remember all the hype for it, and then for me the main hype besides like Freddy versus Jason. But also, I was like, "Oh my god, Kelly from Destiny's Child's going to be in there." So there was like a lot of hype for me. Like I remember the hype train when this was first coming out, and then like in retrospect, this movie could have done things a little differently. Like there are certain things that could have definitely changed or been dropped altogether. But initial thoughts, is a good movie. But what about you, Twan? What are your initial thoughts about this movie?
Initial thoughts is I like this movie just for like the fact that it was able to do what it did and bring like these two characters like together, especially being that they're like not under the same studios and whatnot. So like just the fact that they were even able to do it is
They
like
were at this point.
they were.
Yeah, because after Jason Takes Manhattan, the Paramount was done, and then they sold the rights to New
Ah,
Line. So New Line gave us the Final Friday and Jason X. Because after the
gotcha.
Final Friday, they were supposed to start with Freddy versus Jason, but Wes Craven wanted to make New Nightmare, so they had to pump the brakes on this movie, which is why it took 10 years.
Gotcha. Well, that's good to know. But still, yeah. Even with that, yeah, the fact that we got this movie is kind of crazy in of itself. Because I like, looking at certain things into it, I see that they were trying to make something out of this type of concept for the longest, and just the fact they actually went ahead with it and got a story that made a slight semblance of sense. Like, even though like dialogue wise, all this type of stuff, like it was obviously like lacking in that department, the way that they were able to like bring these two together in a way that could make some sort of sense was like really good. Um, and just the fights that they had, I'm glad they had like multiple like fights and stuff throughout the movie, as Freddy and Jason. Um, I feel like in maybe in other hands, like it probably wouldn't have been like as frequent as it was, but like the way that we got it with like certain things that like Freddy was able to do, like using other people's bodies as like surrogates almost to like fight against Jason, and the combining of like the two types of slashers, like Freddy doing his like more cerebral nightmare stuff and Jason just just slicing and dicing. It was cool to see.
What about you, Maria?
I mean, I liked it. I liked the visuals. I liked that they did like practical effects with like CGI, and they were, I feel like they did that well, especially for a 2003 movie. Um, the dialogue, I don't know what was going on with the dialogue. But it was honestly, I feel like for like a movie where they brought in two different slashers, I feel like it was made pretty well. Um, I think it could have easily flopped, but I feel like the movie was put together, it was better than I expected, I guess. Like, I thought I was gonna hate the movie. I thought it was gonna be like New Nightmare all over again, but it wasn't. Like, it was actually a good movie. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fight scenes. I did enjoy some of the kills. Didn't really care for the plot. Like, I didn't really care about the other characters, I guess. The teenagers and whatever else was going on, like underneath Freddy versus Jason fighting. Didn't really care for any of that, but I thought everything else was great.
I agree. The dialogue made the, the dialogue was tricky. I don't know what was happening, but like the background, you know that the people who wrote the script, they wrote like over 130 something pages, and some scenes were like pages long, but then they had someone come in to like shorten everything. So I
Yeah,
don't know if that. So I don't know if that's why the dialogue just feels disjointed, because like it's noticeably like missing something, or it's just like the dialogue is just trash altogether. It's really hard to tell, but like
I think that's the reason, probably like your first reasoning, because like when they have them do that, they tend to usually the parts they cut down on are the parts where they giving emotion, like emotional beats, like backstory stuff to move the plot along, which is why we get like probably like short spans where they're like 3 minutes of them putting all the plot in and shit in like one go.
yeah, because like my thing is like I hate too much exposition, but I also hate when there's no exposition at all. Like find a good medium and give me all the data dump, but do it in a clever way without shortcutting it and just being like stupid, because it's
Yeah,
very annoying. But Maria, are there any scenes that stood out for you? Good, bad, or indifferent?
I think like the beginning scene, when Freddy, was like trying to awaken Jason.
Make them remember me, Jason. Make
I
them
don't know why.
remember
I
what
thought that scene
fear
was just kind
tastes
of like,
like.
I thought it was bad. I don't know why. I didn't care for it. Didn't care for him, for Freddy like morphing into his different victims. His the mom scene though was pretty good. I thought that made sense. Um, the scene in the I think we're there in Lori's house. I thought that scene was, I mean, it was very like Friday the 13th, like these teenagers being awkward and weird teenagers. Though I did really like the kill scene of Gibbs's boyfriend. I thought it was pretty gory, and I thought it was pretty great for like the first kill of the movie. And also like the scene where Ferretti takes off, I think, takes off Kaya, I think her name was, or Kia,
Hmm.
or he like takes off her nose. I thought that scene was really cheap. I don't know. It just looked very like it just looked awful. Like I know he did. I know Ronnie tried to do like a practical slash CGI effect going on there, but it just came off like as not great. I don't know. It didn't look good. Um, and to be honest, any fighting scene with Jason and Freddy, I really really liked. Like they were really just going at it. Like they weren't just like you know clashing knives and machetes or whatever. Like they were really like fighting each other, and I thought that was great.
Scenes that stood out for me, I would say any scene that had reference to Jason and his trauma and PTSD with water was automatically annoying for me because did we not just watch like eight movies where this man was around water in water? He swam from a fucking boat in the middle of the ocean to the shores of New York. Someone who's afraid of water wouldn't have swam his ass to New York. Or how about that he spent like two movies stuck underwater just like chilling out until he was able to get back up. But then he also found his ass back in water to kill people after being like chained underground. So like all the every time they mention, oh, Jason died by water, we should I'm like, no, that's not. I'm like, did y'all not watch any of these movies before y'all made this team up? Which is another issue I have with this movie. It's just like they shortchanged like Jason so much to fit Freddy in, to fit him into the whole Freddy world, and I don't like it. And then my favorite scene is the scene where Freddy jumps out the water and like is hovering over Lori. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that
what I was gonna
visual.
say.
And then the fight scene where Freddy's like throwing objects at Jason is cool. The fight scene and the burning building is boring. And oh, my favorite scene is when their friend Gib dies because she was annoying. I don't understand how Lori and Kia were friends with Gib. Like that trio made no sense to me. Lori and Kia I got, but like I just didn't see how Gib fit in. Like oh okay, now I'm gonna say that for my favorite kill. But what about you, Tuan? What scene stood out for you? Good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, one scene that I definitely was going to mention was that one with Freddy jumping out the water, and like especially because the way they did his makeup and stuff, and the like the design making him like look more like demonic or whatever, demented. It was like it was pretty cool, and the way he just like shot out. So that was a good scene. Um, Another one that I like just because of how funny it was to me was when they like crashed the van and Jason's body just flies out of the van. That scene is so funny to me every time I see it. It's just the way that he like shoots out of it. That's just hilarious to me. Um, Trying to think. One that I would say I didn't like was the like rave massacre or whatever. Even though Jason racked up like a good amount of bodies there in that little time, it was kind of boring. And besides that, I also didn't like any scene, and I hate this in like any movie when they use like that fast paced like slow motion stuff. I hate that in any movie. It looks so weird to me. It's like very off putting, and it's kind of like one of those just like stylistic choices that certain directors do, but I'm not a fan of that.
Okay, so standout kills. I would have to say Gib getting killed by Jason was good because I didn't like that character. I hate the setup that like she was basically about to be like sexually assaulted. I hated the setup, but I was okay when she was finally gone. And that scene where Jason kind of just like throws his knife like out the woods and that guy is like running and just like nails him perfectly. Think that's the only good part of the rave massacre because everything else was like lame.
Yeah.
And it was in slow motion, which I didn't understand. Whatever. But my other favorite kill would have to be Kia. because she was talking all that shit to Freddy, and then Jason just comes in with the quick swing of the machete, and she's out.
For something? Maybe coming up a little short there between the legs, Mr. Kruger? I mean, you got these teensy weensy little things, and Jason has got this big old thing like.
I was like, okay, straight to the point. What about you, Maria? Any kills stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think mine was the first one with Gibbs' boyfriend. I thought it was pretty brutal, despite the little weird little slow motion thing that Jason did at first. But I thought it was really good because he just like stabbed him so much, and then he just crushed him in half, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And then I think I didn't like the kill of that one dude in the woods. Not in the woods, in the cornfield where like I think Shaq is his name was, and his other friend were smoking, and he like, and Jason comes up and like twists his head, and like it just looks really fake, and it just doesn't look great. I also did like the scene where Freddy electrocuted Stubbs. Um, because because it's like it's going through Freddy, and it's doing absolutely nothing to him, but then the other guy is like dying. And I also do. I don't care about Gibbs. I didn't find her annoying. She's just kind of there. But like, I agree with what you said about her kill. Like, I didn't like that they set up for her to be sexually assaulted. Like that, they did not have to do that.
Twan, any kills that stood out?
Yeah, we'll agree. Maria's that his name was Trey in the beginning. Like his kill was that was a good one, just especially like Maria also said like introducing us back into like um everything and it being like the well not technically the first one but you know the first one that mattered of the movie and just the way it was done like it was like very Jason-esque almost so it was a good one to see um another one that I did like well okay I won't say like the kill but more so like the lead up to um think it was their friend Mark who was also in like the institution with Will and like he had like one of those like Freddy like visions almost before he died where like Freddy was like taunting him and stuff. I like the like lead up to that. Like those are always like cool when done right in like Freddy movies. So I like the lead up to it.
Hey, Mark. You didn't forget about me, did you?
Oh, that's right. Everyone forgot.
His actual kill was like it was like pretty boring. Like he got sliced across the face by like with, like Freddy's glove, and then like Freddy like seared like basically branded him on his back. So that was all right, but I did like the how that went like the lead up to it. Um, Kills that I didn't like. I don't really think I have any that I didn't like. Maybe just like as I mentioned earlier, the whole like rave like kill scene, or whatever. It was kind of boring the way it went down. Like it was obviously cool, rack up the body count a little bit, but the actual like process of it was okay.
Well, let's talk about some of the characters. Let's talk about Mark. He was Will's best friend, and he was from the asylum. I was kind of confused because so Mark's older brother was killed by Freddy, and they never explained why. Did they ever explain why Mark was in an institution?
I don't believe they did. I know. Well, we know. Yeah, we know how Will was there because of the whole like thing with the whole
But
thing
they.
with the
Oh
family.
wait,
But
okay,
we
I think it's coming back to me because I think they were aware that Freddy killed the mom, and to keep and to keep it all shut, they decided to lock them up so
Oh,
they wouldn't spread the word of Freddy.
Yeah, I
gotcha.
thought they were just locking up the kids who like talked about Freddy or who were like traumatized, I guess, or who were afraid of Freddy. Like,
Yes, because talking about Freddy gave him power. So if you talked about Freddy or knew about Freddy, they put you in an institution and they gave them the pills that wouldn't help them dream, that would help them not to dream.
yeah, because I think at one point Will mentions how it wasn't just them in the institution. He was like, yeah, there's like other kids there too that they I guess put there to
Mm,
avoid the spreading of fear of Freddy.
gotcha.
And I forgot to mention this, but I think my biggest issue with this movie is that you're doing a big mashup of the main two villains, but like they needed a returning survivor to like pull it all together. Don't you think? Don't you think that that's the part that was missing?
Wait,
Well, we know it.
repeat that once more. I'm sorry.
The one thing for me that the movie was missing overall is that there was no like returning final person from either franchise. Like I would have loved to have seen like Tommy pop up to like lend his expertise, or I don't know who. Only person who's like left alive from Freddy would be Alice, and I don't want to see that. So
Yeah,
never mind.
I get what you mean. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know if I would have liked that. Like, obviously, if they could do it right, like yeah, like in a sense. But I don't know. Being with what we got with this movie, as far as like how the characters were treated, I think it's good that we didn't get anyone from the past back.
Yeah, but I feel like they could at least like there was like no mentions. They're gonna be like, oh, this girl named Nancy Thompson used to live in my house, and she fought him, or Tommy Wallace. We should call him or reach out, or there should have been like some mention of like the past survivors. It just I don't know. But besides that, Mark was just kind of there. He was just Will's best friend, and then he died. He had
Actually,
a
though,
nice, he had a nice ass though. That was a nice kind of pale, but whatever. But Maria, what are your thoughts on Kia?
Honestly, I don't even know. Like I know she was there for like a good amount of the movie, but I also feel like she didn't really add anything, especially like in her own kill scene when she was trying to, when she was talking shit, I think to Freddy, and like, and then just like the way she died was just so bad. Um, I just feel like they could have done a lot more with her character and made her character a little bit more serious than what she was. I mean, she was just hanging around Lori most of the time, and Lori, that one other kid that liked Lori. I don't know what they're. I don't understand why they had Kia there. I guess like what her role was, because I feel like she didn't really add much to the main plot besides just being another kill or being like some comedic relief, but like that's about it.
Twan, what do you think about Kia?
um, only reason I like Kia was because she was played by Kelly Rowland. I mean, I have no other. Her actual character, like, was she was there, but compared to not even like everyone else. Honestly, honestly, like thinking back at this movie, the only people that really got anything to do were Laurie and Will. Everyone else was, they were kind of just there to give us, a better little kill count, which could be said about a lot of slashers. But even then, um, there wasn't much for like Kia and like the rest of the gang that made it to the end to really do. They did help put the plan in motion a bit, and I do feel bad for her character for having to put her mouth onto Jason's crusty face. But
That was
yeah,
a gross scene.
that was very gross, and I give it to her because it could be me. We would just have to die. I'm sorry. It definitely could have been me.
What are your thoughts on Will, Twan?
I thought Will was fine as a character. Like you could see that he like loved his girl heavily, to the fact that he went to a mental institution, trying to ring the bells about Freddy. Well, no, not Freddy, because he didn't secretly see Freddy. He thought he saw her mom. I mean, the dad. So he didn't know that, but he did like ring the bells on Freddy, and like that's how he got locked up and everything. But um, the fact that he broke out just so he could go and like help his girl out, so that was like good of him, and he was like pretty good guy like all around. Like I didn't see any, slasher boyfriend red flags about Will, I would say. So Will was a pretty good guy, and glad like he was there to assist Lori.
He's really cute. Now, currently the actor doesn't look the same. Age has definitely got to him, but he was very attractive in this movie, and I was like, I hope Will isn't a bad guy. They always make the cute ones either the killer or just a bunch of other red flags, or they get killed. But I was like, okay, he's attractive. He's sticking around. He's actually being helpful. I was okay with Will. I wish he would have done more, because like the last like half of the movie, he was just like injured, crawling around, and Lori was like taking care of him. But what about you, Maria? What are your thoughts on Will?
Like, okay, like I know that Mark didn't play. Okay, let me start off. So Will, yeah, he's a good guy. He, went to the institute and then he broke out to see Lori. But like, if it wasn't for Mark, I feel like his character wouldn't have been as good as it was. Like his character needed another character to uplift him, I guess. Because once Mark died, yeah, then he started stringing along. Then Lori started stringing him along. He basically didn't do anything. It was Lori, yeah, taking care of him, just like how Mark was in the first half. So he was kind of boring. Like he was so bland. Like he just he's like tofu. He needed something else, a little bit of extra spice to actually make him good. You know what I mean? I feel like if
You
I
did
feel like
not
if
just
Will,
compare him to tofu. Oh
I
my
did.
god! And the fact that I understand exactly what you mean by that is makes it even more like insane.
I just feel like I don't know, like his character was so boring, but you can't really tell because of the people that were around him. If he was just standing off in the corner by himself, I would not notice that he was there. Like, I don't, yeah. Like I feel like Mark would have done better in his position, but it wasn't Mark.
Probably. But before we get to like, the three important people in this movie, there's one character who I left out completely, who I just don't like, and that's the fucking cop. He was useless. Like, did he do anything besides like give them like a little backstory of Freddy Krueger? He did nothing, right? He just like gave his spiel and
Yes,
died.
that's about
Yeah,
it.
I was like, why is this cop here? Like, I was gonna put him on our list, but I was like, what's there to say? He was suspicious about Fred Krueger. They shut him down. He talked to Lori in the crew. They believed him. Then he died.
yeah. At first, I thought he was gonna be like he was gonna replace Will for Lori because of I don't know just the way they made him
That's
seem in
kind
the
of what it
beginning.
felt like.
But then I remembered Lori is a high school girl and this man is a cop, so I probably wouldn't be good.
This was the early 2000s. They did not care.
Well, I care, but no, but I agree. I honestly forgot he was there until he came back to fill in the information about Freddy.
He, see, it's one of those characters who's like you don't really care. For me, it's like the actor has played and it has popped up in different TV shows that I've watched, so I recognize his face, and that's the only reason why that character like pops into my head. Because if it was
Yeah,
played by some random nobody, then I wouldn't even think to remember him. He was just there.
No, yeah, I mean, I remember him from Scary Movie, which is yeah, it was the only reason why I recognized him.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I remember him from Scary Movie. I remember him from Charmed. I remember him from like a bunch of other like. He's always recurring in some like big TV show. He's just like usually there, being like stupid for like 3 episodes, and then I'm just like, oh, it's that guy. And then he died, and I was like, yep, this seems about right. This kind of way he does. But Tuan, what are your thoughts on Lori, our final girl? Was she an improvement from Alice
Um,
or Nancy?
I guess we could say like the night like the final girls in the Nightmare franchise are not the best. Like Lori was like okay is like just someone to like for us to like place in this like protagonist role, but um she didn't really do much. And like the way that she got information like was kind of like, which I guess is like a thing of the how we mentioned earlier about like the way the script was and condensing stuff down. Like they didn't really like say a lot how she got like certain information that she did. Um and it was kind of just like given to her and without much work put in. Like the whole thing like, oh, Freddy is fire and Jason is water. I'm like, how did you get to that? I don't know. So it's like certain information that she kind of got, like it didn't really feel earned. It felt like it was just like given to her. But she was like passable for what we got. But if we're being honest, like I wasn't really here for no final girl. I was here to just see Freddie and Jason duke it out. However they did it, it didn't really matter to me.
Maria, what are your thoughts on Lori?
Well, I mean, I didn't like her in the beginning. She just seemed very like damsel in distress type of vibes. I did like her character development. Honestly, I think the only good thing about Lori was the end when she tells Freddie that one line.
Welcome to my world, bitch!
Yeah, like that was the best I think of Lori throughout the whole movie, and it was the end. um, I mean, look, her and Will deserve each other. They're very alike. Um, she just she reminds me of what was her name? Of the girl from like with the baby from Friday the 13th. The final girl from that one. The girl who came after Christy.
Alice.
Yeah, that's who she reminds me of, Alice. But like a kind of like a little notch better than Alice, but like it like stops right there.
When I said earlier that I love this movie because like the main draw, besides the advertisements and the promotion, and Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child, it was also this actress because a lot of people don't know. I've always been a sucker for some mellow teen drama series, especially if it's like WB, CW, UPN, and at my young age of like single digits, I was obsessed with Dawson's Creek. Didn't know too much what was going on the show, but I was obsessed. 9-year-old me, it had me in a chokehold at 9. And she was on that show. She played one of my favorite characters. She died at like halfway through through the show. And I was like, oh my god, that's the Dawson's Creek girl. And then she didn't give me anything good. They thought they were smart by calling her Lori. It's like, but it's not giving Laurie Strode. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not given. And I feel like they introduced this big thing about her dad killed her mom. Oh, actually, Freddy killed her mom. But it didn't really go anywhere.
It didn't.
It was just like this thing that was just like dangling around, but they never actually did anything with it. And I think that might be another product of like they took long scenes and a long script and they condensed it and they dropped so much important story. Like, yeah, the runtime might have been 2 hours or something, but some scenes you can probably like they were probably needed, and I feel like most of Laurie's story was probably cut out to condense the overall story because she just like everything about her just feels like something's missing.
Yeah.
And I can't even picture her and Will as a couple like pre her mother being killed. I'm like I don't see how that ever worked. Like how are you guys a thing? I don't know. But then also like when you watch Scream, you can definitely see okay, I can see how these people were connected before Sydney's mom got murdered and how they've been with her through all those tough times and you can see the connections. It wasn't given that in this movie. I'm like, I don't see how any of you people are connected. I don't see her being traumatized by her mother being murdered. I just don't see it. It just wasn't. It wasn't given Laurie Strode. It wasn't given Sidney Prescott. It was given Alice. You're right, Maria. It was given Alice.
I knew it. I
It
knew
was,
it.
it was given Alice. But Maria, was Freddy doing it for you? I mean, it is the Freddy that we know and love. Kind of down back a bit with the jokes, but it's still the same kick ass Freddy. Did you like him this time around?
I did. Um, I mean, yeah, he was funny. He was. I liked how you could tell the difference between Freddy's kills and Jason's kills. I didn't like the paint job that they did towards the end when they try to make him look really evil and he was just like really red with contacts on. I did not enjoy that. It looked, I don't know, kind of like almost comical, I guess. Um, but I liked them though. I thought they did a good job of um keeping the funny Killer Freddy alive. Though I feel like they should have made him a little bit more darker if they were trying to go with the whole him being really evil ending, and I feel like that would have transitioned more smoothly. Well, for me anyway. But I thought he was okay. I didn't. He wasn't bad. I feel like it was. I feel like it was on brand for Freddy.
Tuan, what about you? Did you like Freddy this time around?
I thought Freddy was fine. I was like, I feel like his like character motivations of why he wanted to come back just makes sense. It's kind of pretty like on brand for what I would expect out of like Freddy, and also just the fact that Robert England came back to do this like just up the performance like even more. Um, even though like even in the worst like movies we got with like Freddy, Robert England like always sold it, so that's like always a plus. Um, I will say though, I did like his design though. They made him like more demonic looking and stuff. That kind of I like that. I don't know. I just like the way that came out and the way he did it, like with the sharp teeth and everything. So that I did kind of like that look for him. But uh trying to think. I don't think there was much I would say I disliked about him. Like understood like his character intentions, what he was trying to do. And another thing I did like is the one his part we got where he like took over the stoner friend. I thought that part with Freddy's character was just pretty cool and like actually no, there's actually a question. What was that little because that little like slug thing reminded me of the Jason movie.
We've seen that slug thing before. It was in part three.
It was.
Kind of. Remember that big slug thing that like thing that tried to eat Kristen when he
Oh,
first see Nancy again? It's kind of the same thing. I interpret it as being the same thing, but then it also reminded me of that fucking thing from Jason. So
yeah, that's what it reminded me of. That's
two
why I
for
was like,
one.
okay, yeah, maybe a 2 for 1, but yeah, that I did like that he did do that though, and like he got to use that part of his powers, I guess you could say.
The thing is, Lori lives in Nancy's old house. That's why I
Right.
kept on saying, like, did there need to be some connection, some bigger connection to the other movies? Because at some point someone should have said something or mentioned like, oh, these people have, because they live in Elm Street. And if this is all still following the same timeline that ends with Freddy's dead, when we got to Elm Street and Freddy's dead, like there were no fucking kids in Elm Street. They were like, oh, but isn't that technically in the future? That's technically in the future. Never mind, because Freddy's dead is set in like what, 2010, I believe, or something like that. No,
Was it?
the Freddy timeline is weird. I forgot the Freddy
Yeah.
time. If I'm going by what I'm thinking, I think technically Freddy's dead is set after Freddy versus Jason. But what, either way, I do like this Freddy. It's the classic Freddy that we all know and love. It's the last time that we get this version of Freddy, because before this, our last time seeing Freddy was in Wes Craven's Nightmare, and that wasn't the Freddy that we loved. But now we got the chance to get that Freddy back one last time, because after this we get remake Freddy, and I don't like that one. So this was a good like last hurrah for this Freddy. And then to Jason, I don't like this Jason. Like he kept doing weird things with his eyes that I did not like. It wasn't, he was skinny, scrawny. I was like, no, I'm used to the last five movies had a buff Jason. I missed the signature chest breathing move when he was like about to kick some ass, because you knew when Jason was mad, because he do that deep breath, and his
Yeah.
like chest did a little like sit up thing. It's like, oh, Jason's pissed off. He's about to kill you, motherfuckers. He's about to kill you people good. And this Jason gave me none of that, none of it. And I was like, ugh. I'm like, Freddy Krueger, like Robert England is Freddy Krueger, and there's only one actor who's played Jason for more than one movie. First, it's the one who played Jason for like 4 to 5 movies. That's the one you get back for the big crossover beat 'em up, and they
Yeah.
failed. And I'll never forgive them for that. But what about you, Tuan? What are your thoughts on this Jason?
Yeah, the Jason that we got was like he was like fine, but I also will agree with you that like he didn't really emote in the way that we got used to Jason like emoting in the movies prior to this one. So a little of that like type of stuff was like lost going into this movie and like watching it, because while Jason was being Jason, like he was hulking around and stuff. Kane Hodder, who did like the performance prior, he had like little quirks about Jason that you kind of picked up on as you like watch the movies and stuff with him in it, and it just wasn't there with this one, which would have worked even more considering that they were trying to like use Jason's backstory more to like as an advantage on how to take him down. I'm sure that could have came across a little bit better had he been the Jason in this one. Um, I don't think the gentleman who was Jason in this movie was like bad or anything, but it's just like we picked up on those little on those things as they went on, and also being that this was a like collab thing of bringing these two together, having that Jason, who's been with us for the time, being the one for this one would have been like better.
And also, they did Jason. They completely wrote Jason out of character. Like his fear of water made no sense. And when did Freddy become like a dream? Oh wait, I'm about to say when he become like a fear demon, but that's kind of what he used against everyone. But still, like we saw Jason in water countless times over countless movies. All they had to do was watch one Jason movie, and they would have seen him in the water. But what about you, Maria? What are your thoughts on Jason this go around?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they were trying to do with the whole Jason is afraid of water and Freddy's afraid of fire, despite the fact they were in fire for a pretty good amount of the movie. Um,
And they fought in water too.
yeah, I did.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. But, I mean, I wasn't really bothered by this Jason's mannerisms. I mean, it would have been great to see the other, the other actor who had played Jason. Um, but I feel like, yeah, this Jason just seemed more human, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really like, yeah, it was that weird thing that he was doing with his eyes. Um, but I also feel like, I mean, this Jason, I feel like was just as brutal. Um, he was just like, I can't get over like the rave scene when he's like cutting people, and then you can see that he's not really cutting people, but they're falling and bleeding anyway. I don't know. I mean, this Jason was just kind of. I mean, he was lacking. I feel like he wasn't as menacing and as intimidating as I feel like the old Jason was. But I mean, he got the job done. Like, I didn't really mind it. I didn't really care that it was a different Jason. There was some things that he did that I thought was just kind of weird, but I think overall, I mean, his Jason in the movie wasn't bad.
Well, now that we're done with the characters, Tuan, can you give the people some behind the scenes info and facts?
So, Freddy vs. Jason had a budget of $30 million and it pulled in a box office of 116 million. A little bit of interesting info here. New Line reportedly spent 6.8 million on the script development alone from over a dozen writers, some of which has some crazy ideas. One script focused on a cult that called themselves Fred Heads, while the other showed authorities catching Jason and sending him to trial. There were also boxing and hockey matches between Freddy and Jason, and a scenario where Freddy assaulted Jason's mother. Kane Hodder, who played Jason from 1988 for Friday the 13th, The New Blood, to 2001's Jason X, but didn't return to Freddy vs. Jason. And to this day, he still does not know the reason he was unable to return. The ending almost included Pinhead within Jason's closet. Not the closet. What am I talking about?
It was going to be in hell.
Yeah, I'm like, why am I'm talking about the closet? I'm thinking about when he opened up that door in his cabin,
Yeah.
and they show like
It,
all those
it
bodies.
was going to be in hell, but then they were like, wait, we don't own the rights to Pinhead. Like,
That's so
no
funny.
shit.
That's so funny. Um, Going back to Kia though, she makes fun of Freddy's sweater and glove, and even calls him a derogatory term for homosexual. Everyone was surprised that the line was kept in the film, especially since it wasn't even in the script in the first place. The idea of Jason being afraid of water was a mistake because of the writers not knowing his backstory. Water has played a very important role in the life of Jason Voorhees. It caused his death back in 1957, and most his killings happened at or near the lake. He even spent a significant amount of time underwater between Friday the 13th, Part 6 and 7, and he also swam to New York City in Part 8. Yet in Freddy vs. Jason, they perceived him as being afraid of water. Wow. A little bit of critics' reactions to this one. Rotten Tomatoes has the film sitting at a 41%. Empire gave the film a 3 stars out of 5, writing Freddy vs. Jason ignores any attempts at cleverness and picks up storylines dropped in Freddy's Dead and Jason Goes to Hell. The Chicago Tribune gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, saying that it succeeds as a guilty pleasure and a monster mash that clobbers the recent lackluster sequels plaguing both legacies. And the Sydney Morning Herald wrote, "This is a solid effort with enough frights, humor, blood, and surprises, along with some killer dialogue to entertain consistently." Killer dialogue? They were. I don't think they was missing with that one, but everything else.
Well, obviously, you don't know what they're talking about. So, what about us? Do we cash or pass Freddy vs. Jason? Maria.
I'll pass. I mean, there's things about the movie that I really liked, but there's also things that I just feel like aren't good enough. Like, I mean, for the one thing, the dialogue I think was dumb, and then not to mention, honestly, if this movie was just like 95 minutes of just Freddy and Jason fighting, I feel like I would have watched it and I would have thought this was great. But adding all like everything else just kind of it just made the plot longer, but it didn't really contribute. I feel like as much. So I'll pass.
Tuan, cash or pass?
I personally will cash on this one. Yeah, the movie isn't that good or anything, and dialogue could have been better, characters could have been better, but it gave me what I wanted to see. I came here to see Freddy versus Jason, and I got Freddy versus Jason. All the scenes where they were included, like either separately or like fighting, those were the best scenes in this movie, and that's what we really were coming here to see. So I would definitely give this one a cash. Like I'll see myself watching it again sometime, or maybe just a kill count to see what I really want to see.
For me, kind of, I don't know. It's like I rewatched this movie. I've seen this movie several times since it's come out, but I haven't watched it as frequently as I've watched the other movies in the other franchises. I mean, of all the movies in both franchises, I think I've seen Jason Takes Manhattan the most because still, it's my number one favorite. And I can watch pretty much, I can even rewatch the stupid remake, but I don't rewatch this one that often. I've seen it a handful of times, and it's like, it gives me the Freddy that I miss, but it doesn't give me the Jason that I know. And then the teen characters just don't feel useful or needed. And it's like there's so much good, but then there's like a lot of bad that kind of overshadows it. And for me, there's just something missing. And when we're leading up to this, I was kind of excited because I was like, oh, I love that movie. But that was just more like nostalgia because I remember all the promos in 2002 and 2003. I remember, oh my God, Destiny Child is on hiatus, but Kelly's acting. I'm gonna love this. That chick from Dawson's Creek, the cute guy is in there, and his dad's from Eight Simple Rules. Like I remember the nostalgia of like where I was when the movie was coming out that made me like, oh, I'm gonna love this movie. And then I started watching the movie, and I was like, oh, this isn't what I remembered. So I'm gonna give it a cash and a half. Like, if we're doing a big Freddy and Jason marathon, you have to put this on because it completes both franchises. But if I'm just watching Freddy, I'm gonna skip this and I'm gonna skip the remake. If I'm just watching Jason, I'm skipping this and skipping the remake. I'm gonna end it at Wes Craven's Nightmare. I'm gonna end it at Jason X. It's only important viewing if I'm doing a marathon of both franchises, but I would never watch this on a single franchise watch. This also wouldn't be my first choice. So I give it a cash and a half. But that's all I got. And with that, we are done with both the Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th franchises. There's no new news of any new movies coming out. There is a supposed Camp Crystal Lake TV series in the works with Peacock, but who knows where that's going to go. But if it happens, we might pop in and give a little review on it, but we'll see where that goes. But with this, we're done with franchises for a while. So for the next several months, probably up until the summer, we are franchised out. We will still probably do like 2-parters, 3-parters, because I think I want to do the urban legend movies. There's like 3 of those, but no long franchises because I think we need a break, guys. What about you?
Yeah, we need a break.
Yeah, we do.
And I have the perfect movie to kick off this break. So tune in next week as we cover Jordan Peele's Get Out. Should be a good one. Thank you guys for listening. Good night. Goodbye. The Haddonfield Horrors podcast is a Letters to Media production.
Should we do an intro?